this is something that I've been wondering because I mean, you got to think for me, I'm used to being behind the camera. I always need to know, like, whenever something's happening in broadcast and something unexpected happens and the broadcast just goes like quiet, it's like I know they're not just sitting there in silence. So, like, I need to know what do y'all say when you mute your mic in the midst of like a drama and like what conversations really get had when you press the mute button and are just talking to each other when you're not on air? I need to know.
So to clarify, are you talking about like when the game, like we're not in commercial break, like we're still on air and like the mics go
In the
quiet?
game, because we've seen broadcasts where like something happens and it's either funny or like unexpected, and instead of the broadcast just kind of continuing on as normal, it'll just be silent. And it's like you're like they're either cracking up in the booth or they're like figuring
They've
out how
got the
they're
finger
damage
on the
control.
cough. Yes,
So
finger is
for
on
the
the cough button.
for the uninitiated, if you're in TV specifically, they give you this like little black box and it's got two buttons on it. One says cough, one says talk back. The cough one just mutes you so you can cough typically. And the other one's talk back so you can talk back to your producer. It's like a line back into the control room. So usually, like if I had to power rank it, if you like hear announcers go quiet and like something random just happened that's like funny, they're laughing. They're 100% laughing, but in a way that they don't want you to hear them laughing because it would come off as unprofessional. So like that's number one. Number two is they're looking at each other and like they're talking to something or they're like trying to communicate something. Or three, the producer said something in their ear and they're trying not to laugh and they're talking back with their producer. Because there are producers and directors that are diabolical. They will say things in your ear that you are like fighting through tears not to like giggle on air. Because like to them, this is another day at the office and they think it's funny to mess with you. Meanwhile, like there are thousands of people watching. You've got somebody in your ear that's like the two Muppet characters, like the two old guys just like popping comments back and forth. But yeah, no, most of the time it's laughing, which I have another wild story for you off of this if you'd like to hear it.
Yes, please.
So I'm going to preface this story too with it was completely safe. The production dude did an incredible job setting this up. It was really innovative and it helped us do a successful tennis broadcast. You may have seen it if you've like been around a sports like event before, but I know you guys know the lifts that camera operators use. Like they're typically the same ones that people use when they're like working on electrical like wires, like the ones that run along the road. They have to wobble a little bit in the wind because that's how engineering works. Like you don't want it to be stiff. You want it to have some give. So we had to do a tennis broadcast at USF. But the issue is that there's like 6 courts and there's not really a vantage point where you can see everything. So they had this really good idea that did work where they put us on one of those lifts. Will, I know you'd be unfazed by it because I'm sure you've been on them before plenty. And like, but me, I had never been on one. And for those who don't know, I'm about like 6'4", 285 pounds. Like I'm a bigger guy. So like we're sitting here. It's me and a colleague of mine. And I'm playing the role of color analyst. And like, it's the middle of like an April day. And it's like, there's not very much wind, but man, if I even like scoot in my chair a little bit, the whole thing's like tilting back and forth. And I'm just like, I remember vividly the first time I did it. As soon as I moved, I hit the talkback button and I was just like, guys, if I die, like I go out doing what I love. Because it was like, the whole thing was like moving. And again, it was very sound. This is like someone experiencing turbulence for the first time on an airplane. Except in this case, it was like me on like a lift. But it was like still the most like interesting broadcast I've ever done, just from the standpoint of like, I've never like gone up in a lift and had to simultaneously like cope with my fear of heights while also having to be on air. Like that was like an interesting like juxtaposition. It was really innovative, but like just the fact that like every time I like scooched a little bit to adjust, it was like, oh no, the lift's tilting around a little.
That's wild.
That is wild.
Yeah. No, it was a good time. We were up there for a couple hours doing that game. It was interesting. It was the most unique press box I've been in.
Hey, thanks for watching this clip. For more on sports media and working in the industry, subscribe to the How to Cook a Goose podcast.